Are you struggling to get more bookings? I've made no secret that I get over 90% of my clients through Google AdWords. It is hands down the most powerful advertising method I've come across. If you're serious about growing your business, Ryan and I personally created an AdWords course just for listeners. Visit courses.superboothers.com for more info.
Hello and welcome to Super Boothers. My name is Ryan.
And I'm Ismail.
Ugh, I'm starving.
So go eat. What are you, a child? You want me to feed you as well? Got to do everything around here.
Do you know what You know what I'm hungry for? Burgers. Where can I get a good burger?
Oh man, you're asking the right guy about that. The best place is my backyard when I grill them.
Oh, whatever. That is such a load of crap.
I'm telling you, man, I can grill a mean burger.
You couldn't grill a burger.
I'm renowned for my burgers, okay? People from all across the land visit my home to have a taste of my burgers.
For what? For what? A death wish? Is that like where they go just to like end themselves? Like, no, I don't buy it.
It's pure pleasure. It's amazing. I love burgers. I don't know where you're going with this, but I actually really love burgers for all my fellow compatriots out there. Like, I look at rankings of the top burgers in New York City and I go try them. I love burgers.
Have you tried the International House of Burgers?
Oh, that's where you're going with this? Come on, man. That is just mean. That's a bait and switch.
What? How is it a bait and switch?
You know, you can't be a burger connoisseur until you try the burgers out there. All the burgers the world has to offer. I have had the burger at IHOP years ago, and I was pretty impressed. I mean, it was pretty good. It was better than I expected for a breakfast chain.
So, what do you think about them changing their whole flipping name?
You mean to IHOB?
Yes.
Oh, God. You know, I actually posted about this in our group recently and got a lot of interesting commentary going on there. When they first said they're going to change their name to IHOB, I actually guessed it was breakfast. To me, that's what made sense. International House of Breakfast. They're going to expand it to include everything, not just pancakes. When they said burger, right? That's what they're doing. International House of Burgers.
Mm.
I I have some thoughts on this. But you can
I
go
don't
first.
think I ever went there for pancakes. I don't think I've ever been there in the last 10 years. I mean, I might have went when I was in like college and I'm pretty sure I was intoxicated.
I love IHOP. I mean, IHOP's amazing. It's a gift to the human race.
That is a stretch.
It's good, man. It's good stuff. You can't be hating on it. But I found this whole thing really interesting from a branding perspective. Like, it's not often you see a giant corporation like this with such a big legacy and history do something like this, right? So to see the reaction, to see how it works for them, to see what they may have been trying to accomplish, I find it like a very fascinating case study. So it's sparked a lot of interesting conversation for sure.
This is going to be $1 billion blunder.
I do not agree with that.
I mean, why couldn't they have picked International House of Brunch? I would have believed that.
Well, let's take a step back, Mr. Salinas, and try to imagine these people that run this gigantic corporation that are not stupid. What could they be thinking? Like, what are potential reasons they're doing this?
I have no earthly idea. Well, that's the thing is, I guess they're owned by Applebee's.
They may be. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, they are.
So, my take on this is that I don't think they're going to change their name. I think it was a marketing, you know, ploy, and it worked because literally everyone is talking about it. And the post I put in our Facebook group is actually images of other companies' response to this whole thing.
Yeah, I loved loved Wendy's response. So someone wrote, "So Wendy's, you gonna let IHOP sell burgers on your block? I thought you were the OG." And Wendy's tweeted back, "Not really afraid of the burgers from the place that decided pancakes were too hard."
Oof.
Wendy's is hysterical with their just roasting people on
Their
Twitter.
social media game is quite strong. There was other
Oh my
cool
god.
things
Oh
like
my god. And I don't even care for the food at
there
Wendy's.
was other cool things like Burger King changed their logo to say Pancake King. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was pretty
yeah.
funny. But there's a lot of attention. Everyone's talking about it. I'm sure people who have heard this is not the first time they've heard about it. So they are successfully drawing attention to their brand. And it's not just about pancakes, it's about their burgers. When were people talking about IHOP's burgers before? Now everyone's talking about it.
First of all, when were people talking about IHOP?
Listen, I don't know about your corner of the world, but over here, IHOP's pretty popular. Like,
Listen, in my country, if I want pancakes,
don't say it. Don't go there. It's a family show.
so we're going to bring this back to the concept of branding and branding in general. Now, one thing that I did on my website is it was June, and it is Pride Month, so I changed my logo to rainbow.
That's nice.
Listen, you homophobe. No, so I will say this. It just shows that in this, and I'll change it back, but for this month, I am just letting the interwebs know that I am friendly to the LGBT community.
Yeah, I just don't participate in any of that stuff. It's just I'm not really that active on social media to be changing my image, but I see why people do it. They feel like they're involved and part of the conversation. So yeah, it's cool.
So this is another thing is I always think it's very interesting whenever people like really fret over their logo and think that their logo is branding, and that's not correct.
Also, the business card, critical business card decision.
Sure. I just think that that is just so branding is so much more of a larger big picture than your logo or your business card or your Instagram.
Right, and I think that's what you see with IHOP. Their branding that's been developed over decades and decades and decades is kind of being challenged right now, right? So I applaud them for what they're trying to do here because I believe any business, any company's main objective is like growth, profit. Like that's what a company is trying to grow, make more money, employ more people, yada yada yada. And they probably have reached the limit on pancakes, right? So they're trying to grow, and I think this actually can end up being a genius move, getting people to discuss something that they weren't really known for before without harming their reputation for pancakes. I see no harm in what they're doing. And people are saying, oh, this is stupid, this is terrible. I don't see it backfiring. I don't think they're going to actually change their name. I think it was a marketing campaign. And I think people will still know them for their pancakes. So their brand, I don't view being hurt in any way. They're just trying to add to it. And I think it's a ballsy move. And I commend them for trying. I think a lot of people would learn something from that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm just in the same camp.
Challenge me.
Well, I don't care enough to. I don't give a crap about what IHOP or IHOB is doing. I mean, that's just me.
I just find that something I like to observe these companies and see what we can learn from them, right? So I'm trying to I probably mentioned this on the show before, but and people are asking for my website and my company. The reason I haven't shared it yet is I'm trying to rebrand myself currently. So um, I'm going through this process now, and it's difficult. It's challenging.
So what things are you doing to rebrand your company? Let's start from the beginning.
So I am trying to.
Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, hello, hello. So I am trying to kind of something similar, expand into things that my company was not known for primarily before. So as a photo,
Like a like a good product?
no, we only
Sorry,
do great ones, not good ones.
I'm reading all these Wendy's tweets and they're flipping hysterical.
So we were primarily a photo booth company, right? So we got a lot of clientele, and I think a lot of people are on the same boat. So you work all these events, and now you're trying to see what else you can offer. at the event. There's a lot of services being offered at any party. What else can you do? And we all have, if you've heard the show before, you hear all these ideas about, people do DJ, people do lighting, people do rentals for tables and chairs, people do game rentals. There's a lot of these other things that go along with parties and events. So instead of being a photo booth centric company, I feel like we've got that covered. We've got that going for a few years. People know us for that. I'm trying to develop a brand that is not just photo booths, that is covering a lot of these other things, and would hopefully increase our profit and revenue per event if we can offer additional things as well.
So your goal would be to do more things for one event than the same thing for multiple events, rather.
Correct. What do you think about that so far?
I've done it before.
Now, did you
Um,
change your name, or did you start with a brand name from the
no,
get go?
so no, so I've always had names that have always been very brandable. Not necessarily like, oh crap, I want to offer this now, so now I have to change my name. I don't think I really ever did that. Everything that so there was one company that I had in Houston that was really meant on offering multiple things to begin with. So even though I originally only did flowers, I knew that things would come on later down the road. So I knew from the get go that I wanted a business that could have different like sub products with the same name with like one like parent company name. So from there, I think I've just kind of always had that in the back of my mind.
I think it's difficult because you get known for something, right? So let's say photo booth. You're known for photo booth rentals. It's not as easy as you would think to change the brand so that instead of, hey, you need a photo booth, I got a guy, to being, hey, you're doing a party. What do you need all these different things? Yeah, I think I have a guy. Like, how do you go from being known for one thing to being known for many, many things? It seems like a bit of a leap.
I don't think so. I think that, well, see, and this is the thing is I've done it backwards too. Like I went from doing flowers and linens and rentals and chairs and decor and hanging chandeliers and lighting and all sorts of crazy stuff left and right and doing all that really well and then scaling that down to just offering one product and that's about it. And I went from doing a lot of things really well to doing one thing incredibly well. um,
I just think, like, even if you go back to episode 1 with Justin, where he talks about targeting, finding a niche, and really zoning in. When you're expanding from one thing that you're known for, you're kind of going against that, and it's just something that you have to really weigh carefully. I think I've been analyzing this like crazy, maybe too much, but this is why I find the
yeah, I
IHOP
think
story
so.
so fascinating, is because it's basically the same thing, right? They have customers that go there for breakfast, and now they're trying to say, hey, these people eat other food. How do I get more, meals per person? What about if we focus on lunch and dinner with burgers, right? I find it very similar.
Well, why don't they just have? Why just don't they have like an IHOP Brazilian churrascaria? I mean, like, why not? Why not do IHOP Chinese food? I mean, there has to be a stopping point to
That's a great point.
this.
But they're not going for IHOP Chinese food, right? So obviously, it's not as big of a leap to go to burgers. It's not really. Yeah, so that's something that I've been kind of weighing, and I'm going in a direction, and like much any other things, you don't really know if you're right until afterwards. So we'll see.
Well, I think that if you want to have a business that really encompasses everything, like right, I guess right now, I guess if I were to take my current business, so I originally started as Urban Booth, and I did the modified spelling just because I'm complicated like that, and then I ran into a problem where I had a lot of clients that I did flowers for before, and they ended up saying like, "Oh, well, where's your website?" Well, it's only photos now, but I can still do flowers for you. And these are clients that I've had for a very long time, so I'm not about to turn down that revenue. And if I can accomplish it by myself, like that's not a problem. So what I ended up having to do is changing it to urban events, where it was mostly photos and photo booth, but then there was a tiny little button at the bottom that said floral lighting and decor. So I still had it on my website, but whatever business name I had needed to encompass all of that.
I think when you make the comment about trying to cover everything, I think that's impossible. You won't cover everything, even if you choose to be a company that does, a lot of things for events. You're actually choosing what you're doing. You're not doing everything, right? You're being very particular that, hey, we're an event company. We're doing DJ, lighting, table, chairs, and photo booths. There's a lot of other things you could be doing, but you're not. So there is some thought that goes into what you decide to cover, right? It's not just everything.
I don't know. I mean, there are times where, like, if someone today were to come to me and say, "Hey, I want an aerialist," okay, I'd sell them an aerialist. I don't provide aerialists, but I know someone that does, and I can put it on my bill and upsell it a little bit. I mean, so I can confidently say, yes, I do sell everything.
But you're not seeking people who are trying to book, gymnasts. You're just going to take that opportunity if it comes to you, but you're not really promoting your brand as a company that does that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that whenever I do, like, whenever someone comes to me to plan an event start to finish, whether it be wedding, corporate, or otherwise, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, and again, you're not selling, I'm selling custom. I'm not necessarily selling specific. So, no, you're right. I'm not doing a Google AdWords campaign saying, hey, listen, if you need, a Champagne Diva aerialist, to come to your event, they're probably not going to Google search that and come to me. However, if there's a client that is doing a gala and I'm doing, tables, chairs, rentals, entertainment, I have AV in there and they say, well, what else can we do? Well, hey, what if we did, a champagne aerialist or something? I mean, yeah, absolutely. I would sell that.
So when you mentioned before, like you kind of downplayed the importance of the logo. How important do you think the name is when you're trying to do a brand? Like you change from urban booth to urban events. How important do you think the
I
name
don't think
is?
it's that important at all. I think people overthink that too much. I think that your logo needs to say or hint at something of what you do. Something that actually I have a PDF coming out. um, and what this one is talking about is pretty much like website best practices. And one of the first things that I talk about in there is, we go over the 10-second test and going over to a random person, like, let's just say, like, you're at a party, friend of a friend, hey, can you look at something real quick? I want you to look at my website. Someone that knows nothing of what you do, who you are, any of that. You hand them a tablet, a phone, or whatever. You give them 10 seconds to scroll around your website. And then they have to answer the question of what do you do and how much do you think it costs? That way you can tell from that person, is my name or brand recognizable? Is it memorable? Does it tell you what I do?
That that's a great that's a great test. I mean, that's branding at its essence, right? So once they're exposed to your
Sure. You
site
have
or your
10
brand,
Yeah, you have
they have an
10
impression.
seconds to tell
Yeah.
me what I am about. If someone has a problem, if someone hesitates with that, you have some problems that you need to work out.
So how can I do that
Well,
test?
first
How
of all,
can I
get
do
some
that?
friends, and then
Oh, so I
no,
can't
stops
I
there.
can't do this then.
No,
Okay.
so no, so like, just like whenever you're at like a dinner party or something like that, hand someone your phone and say, "Hey, I want you to look at something. Tell me what you think. Can you look at my website for 10 seconds and tell me what I do?" Don't give it don't prompt them with anything. I mean, I would almost turn it, what, if you go to a networking event, say, "Hey, listen, I've been waiting for this. This is going to seem weird. What's your number?" No, I'm kidding. Uh, this is going to seem weird. Can you look at my website and tell me what I do? Just as an experiment. And if you're at a networking event, I mean, that's perfectly acceptable. If someone were to go to my website now, they would see photos, they would see a photo booth, they would see GIFs, they would see the microsite, they would see my digital props, they would see the analytics, they would see testimonials, they would see my Instagram of everything that I've done in the last 5 days. If that doesn't sell them very quickly, I don't know. I have no clue what else
Are
to do.
you like thoughtful and methodical about what you put out in relation to your, like, do you think about your branding when you're putting up Instagram posts, or is it just a natural thing that you do? You're not really thinking and analyzing it.
Everything that Ryan P. Salinas does is methodical. Everything that I put out there is methodical. There's a reason I am doing it. I don't just post stuff just to post it. There's always a reason behind everything.
So every single Instagram post, you think
Yes.
about it before you post it and think about whether it
Yes.
fits your brand.
For sure. Does this accomplish what I am trying to sell? Does this represent who I am as a company and as a brand? That's another thing, is there are some people that really do take it a step further. I don't. I'm actually getting to the point now where I will not post anything from my phone. Meaning I won't post a picture that I've taken on my phone. I will only post pictures that I've taken on my big camera. Like, that's how like methodical I've gotten. And actually, and that's the thing, I manage a lot of I manage 5 Instagrams. And I always make sure that, so like I actually have 2 personal Instagrams. And I am very methodical about that because those Instagrams go on to other websites where someone else can see like what's going on that doesn't necessarily just follow me on Instagram.
So what about analyzing a brand that everyone's familiar with, the Super Boosters brand? How would you analyze like that brand? How much we could talk about how much thought we put into the name and the logo and stuff like that, but how do you think about that brand compared to your event business and your personal brand?
Same thing. Just the exact same. I mean, first of all, everything that, and I have said this previously, is whenever you and I appear together in person, our colors were red, white, and blue. One of us will be wearing red, and one of us will be wearing a shade of blue. Like, that's how methodical it's always been. And again, I've said this before. You may not know it, but your wife does, because
I
she
definitely
dresses
don't.
you.
I definitely don't know it, so that's true.
No, I mean, and that's the thing, is every our podcast, not so much, because our podcast really is just kind of a way for me to vent and me to talk about, whatever it is. It's cheaper than therapy. It's just a great way for me to, vocalize whatever is going on in my mind with my business. And that's one thing that I think is really beneficial, and really, again, part of our brand is we've always been conversational. Hey, you have a problem with your business? Like, what's going on? Like, talk to me. Like, what's going on here? Like, are we not booking enough? Like, are you overthinking things? Like, let's get to the root of the problem here.
I think the interesting thing about the name Super Boosters is that it's not just a name plucked out of thin air, right? It actually is a name that people relate to and at the same time aspire to. So people want to be a super boother, they want to grow and get to the next level, but they also feel like they are a super boother because they're on that path. They're actively trying to improve. So it's an inclusive brand that makes people feel a part of something, and I think that makes it more powerful.
I think that one of the reasons why I really appreciated our brand in the very beginning was we really didn't put too much thought about it. I mean, yes, we put a lot of thought into it. However, we made the decision and we moved on. That was the big thing, is the name came quickly.
Yeah.
Whenever I was looking for like the podcast artwork, actually I didn't intend on the image that you see now on your phone or whatever device you're viewing this on. That image of the buildings in the cartoon wasn't necessarily originally the idea. Like, it was just like a peripheral thing. Well, maybe we'll use this, and it turned out to being, the our main hero image. It's the image that we use everywhere. Whenever we did our logo, any person that has been on our show before, they get a little badge that says featured on Super Boothers that they can put on their website. That has been really carefully thought out as well. I've used the same thing, the same badge, similar, for our e-course. So our e-course has like a little superhero on top of it, and our little Super Boothers modified logo on there, again in red and blue.
I definitely think there's something to be said with deciding and moving on. Have you heard of that app Bumble?
No, what's that?
It's this dating social network app
Yeah.
where women
Do you like
actually make the
swipe
first
left?
move.
Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. So
So
it's not swipe
it was
left,
kind of
swipe right.
no, no, no. It was kind of groundbreaking where women write the first message and then guys can respond. And I was listening to an interview with the founder of that company, who actually worked at Tinder before, and she was talking about how she came up with the name and the brand, and she didn't like it at first. But the interesting thing that she said was that once you pick the name, a lot of things kind of crop up afterwards that help you brand. So then she was like,
Sure.
"Oh, Bumble, Find Your Honey," and then she started coming up with all these other things. So I think there's something to be said with making a decision, and then once you've made a decision and you move on, a lot of things start cropping up. Like you mentioned that banner image with the hero, the superhero that people get after being on the show. It fits the brand, but that's not something we thought of necessarily beforehand. It kind of comes after you start with the name.
Well, no, and whenever we did the photo shoot with the Super Boothers T-shirt, there was a blue brick wall, and I just took a picture on the brick wall. I was like, "How can I make this cooler?" So what I did was in Photoshop, I added, and you can go to our website to see it. Go to superboothers.com, and it's the Ask a Question button, and you'll see someone wearing a Super Boothers shirt, and then there's a painted superhero cape. I mean, that completely came later. That was never the intention. Like, I was just like, how can I make this image pop a little bit more?
Yeah, and whenever I think about names and branding, I think back to the Nintendo Wii. I don't know if you remember, like when that name came out, I remember people like really laughing and making fun of them and making all these jokes about the Wii. And
Same thing with the iPad.
yeah, the iPad too. I remember that. And they
Ew,
they,
gross. I just got a visual.
they totally shot any of that down. The Nintendo Wii became the best-selling console ever in history, and the iPad is a huge success as well. So I think the message that I would leave this show with is that it's something that I learned and I applied to my own experience, is that sometimes you've got to pick something to move on. And if it doesn't work out, you can do things later on to work around that. But there's something to be said for picking something and moving on.
Well, and another thing is, before we leave, I will say that a lot of like the company culture comes later. I mean, there are times where you can like try out one thing, and you can be really forcing it, and it's just not working. And I'm not for forcing something that's just never going to happen. I mean, a lot of everything that I've done with my businesses and Super Brothers really happened organically. Like, really haven't forced anything. It's going to take you some time to figure out kind of who you are and what you're good at. It takes a lot to it took a lot for me to say, and I fought it. Everyone that worked for me was like, we need props, we need props, we need props. I'm getting yelled at by people that saying we don't have props, but don't have props. One thing that I changed as of January 1 this year is I do not do props, and I am completely unapologetic about it. And that is completely fine. I have set the expectation with my client. This is who I am as a company and as a brand. And once you set that expectation, people are fine with it. They appreciate it. The email that I got this morning, she goes, and I was really worried about it. She goes, "Thank you so much. The technology was amazing. Everyone had such a great job. I'm so glad we didn't use props." I mean, there's just nothing better than that.
I would just add that it's very rare to have an irreversible decision or mistake or whatnot in relation to branding. I mean, there's terrible things that happen where airlines plane crashes, or I remember there's a famous thing back in the day. I think it was Tylenol or Advil or something, where there's a whole issue with kids getting sick from the medicine. Like
Yeah.
they bounce back, they bounce back, and
The kids bounced back. They're fine. They didn't die.
how much worse can it get than that? And those brands are still around and very well known. So there's nothing that you should think is irreversible. Don't panic. Don't overcomplicate things. Make the decision and move on.
Thank you guys so much for listening. If you haven't already, please join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/superboothers. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next week.